The loudest AI disruption stories are rarely the most important ones. You have probably heard the same names over and over. Writers, coders, graphic designers. Those conversations are real, but they are also the ones getting all the oxygen. And when all the attention goes to one fire, the quieter ones spread unchecked. The real shifts are happening somewhere else. In industries that don't make for clean Twitter threads. In roles that nobody is writing think pieces about. In systems where the change is already 2 or 3 steps deep, and most of the people inside them haven't looked up yet. So here is the question this video is going to answer. Which industries are actually being reshaped right now? How is the mechanism working? And what does it mean if you're building a career inside one of them? This video is not for people who work in Silicon Valley. It is not about AI researchers or startup founders. It is for people in their mid-20s or early 30s, doing real work in real industries, insurance, logistics, legal services, accounting, healthcare administration, commercial real estate. Industries that feel stable. Industries where the job title is recognizable and the career path is legible. If you are in one of those fields, or if you are choosing one, this matters to you directly. Not because your job disappears tomorrow, but because the shape of work inside these industries is quietly reorganizing. And the people who understand the mechanism early have a meaningfully different future than the people who notice it late. That gap is what this video is about. Here is one number worth sitting with. McKinsey's global research estimated that roughly 60 to 70% of time across knowledge work occupations consists of tasks that are, in their words, technically automatable with current or near current technology. Not jobs, tasks. The distinction matters enormously, and we'll come back to it. But here is the more important thing that number reveals. Most of that task load is not in the industries everyone is watching. It is concentrated in the unglamorous, process-heavy, documentation-intensive work that sits inside industries people still think of as safe. There was a story I came across about a mid-sized insurance firm. Not a startup, not a tech company. A traditional firm in the Midwest. Over the course of 18 months, they quietly automated most of the claims intake and initial assessment process. They didn't announce it. There was no press release. A few roles were reclassified. A few weren't backfilled when people left. And by the time the remaining employees noticed the structure had changed, it already had. That is the pattern. Not a dramatic announcement. A quiet reorganization, department by department, role by role. Now let me show you the mechanism behind it. There are 4 steps to how this happens. They work in sequence. Understanding each one changes how you read what's coming. Step 1. AI enters through the back door. AI does not arrive in most industries as a headline product. It arrives as an efficiency tool inside existing software. The accounting platform your firm already uses adds an AI layer. The document management system gets a summarization feature. The CRM starts flagging anomalies automatically. Nobody holds a meeting called "We are replacing people with AI." What happens instead is that tools get updated, and the tools quietly absorb tasks that used to require human time. The concrete example is legal services. Law firms haven't replaced associates with robot lawyers. What happened instead is that tools like Kira, Luminance, and similar contract analysis platforms became standard inside due diligence work. A task that once took a junior associate 6 to 10 hours, reviewing and flagging clauses in a stack of contracts, now takes less than an hour with AI-assisted review. The associate is still there, but one associate now does the output of 3, which means you need fewer of them at the next hiring cycle. This is the back door. AI enters through the software stack, not through the front door labeled disruption. Step 2. Task compression changes headcount math. Now that you understand step 1, here is why that matters for staffing. The economic logic of a company is not how many people do we have. It is how much output do we need, and what is the most efficient way to produce it. When AI compresses the time required for a task, It does not immediately eliminate the role. It changes the ratio. Think of it this way. A team of 5 produces a certain volume of work. If AI makes each person 40% more efficient, you now have the capacity equivalent of 7 people. If output demand stays the same, you don't need to hire when one person leaves. If demand grows modestly, you still don't need to hire. Headcount flatlines, or quietly contracts, while output holds. This is what's happening inside insurance claims processing, inside accounting at mid-size firms, inside paralegal and contract review work, inside radiology reporting at hospital networks. The jobs don't vanish in a press release. The hiring slows. The teams thin. The remaining roles change shape. Step 3. The skill floor rises. But here is where most people get stuck. They think this is purely a volume story. Fewer people doing the same work. That is only half of it. The other half is that the baseline expectation for the people who remain changes significantly. When AI handles the routine layer, the human work that's left is everything AI cannot do well yet. Judgment under ambiguity, client relationships, edge cases, decisions with ethical or contextual weight. In commercial real estate, for example, AI tools have made property valuation analysis, lease abstraction, and market comp research dramatically faster. The analysts doing that work are still employed, but the ones who survive the restructuring are the ones who can take that AI-generated analysis, interrogate its assumptions, present it to a client with credibility, and make a recommendation the client trusts. The ones whose job was to produce the analysis, and not much else, are the ones whose role is hollowing out. The skill floor rises. Showing up, knowing how to do the process, is no longer enough. You have to show up, knowing how to think above the process. Step 4. The industries you weren't watching move first. Step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture. The industries absorbing AI integration fastest right now are not the ones in the headlines. They are the ones with 3 characteristics: high documentation burden, standardized decision processes, and large volumes of repetitive cognitive tasks. That combination describes healthcare administration, insurance, logistics coordination, accounting, legal services, and commercial banking operations almost perfectly. Meanwhile, the industries that have gotten the most press, creative work, software engineering, journalism, are real stories, but they involve more complexity, more judgment, more context dependence. The automation is happening there too, but the process is slower and messier. The quiet industries move faster precisely because the work is more legible to AI systems. Structured, repeatable, rule-bound. That is a gift to automation. Here is what this looks like in practice. For 2 people in the same industry, same role, same starting point. You are 2 years into a career in insurance underwriting. You are good at your job. You know the process. One version of you treats the AI tools that have started appearing in your workflow as time savers. You use them to move faster. Your output goes up. You feel more productive. But the work you are producing still looks the same. Faster analysis, same format, same reasoning, same deliverable. You are a more efficient version of what you were. The other version of you notices something different. You start paying attention to what the AI gets wrong, where its outputs are brittle, what context it is missing. You start developing an opinion about which AI-assisted assessments you'd actually stake your name on, and which ones need harder scrutiny. You start becoming someone who can supervise and interrogate AI work, not just produce alongside it. You become the person your team routes difficult or ambiguous cases to. 2 years later, when the team restructures, version 1 has a target on their back because they made themselves more efficient at exactly the work the AI now does acceptably well. Version 2 has become indispensable because they developed expertise in the gap the AI cannot fill. Same industry, same starting point, very different trajectory. There is one mental model I want to give you. It is not a checklist. It is a lens. Call it the edge layer. Every job has a core layer, the standard tasks, the repeatable processes, the work that can be documented and systematized. And every job has an edge layer, the cases that don't fit the template, the judgment calls that require context, the moments where the process breaks down and a person has to decide. AI is extraordinarily good at the core layer. It is, for now, weak at the edge layer. Most people build their competence in the core layer because that is where the training is. That is where the performance reviews focus. That is where the volume of work lives. That made sense for decades. It is now a liability. The practical move for anyone in one of these industries is to deliberately develop edge layer competence, not instead of the core, but above it. That means study the failure modes of the tools you're using. Take on the ambiguous cases. Ask to be involved in decisions that don't have clean answers. Become someone whose judgment is trusted, not just someone whose throughput is high. Think of it this way. Your value to an organization is no longer what you can produce. It is what you can decide in the situations where the system cannot decide for you. So back to the question we started with. Which industries are being quietly reshaped? And what does it mean if you're inside one? The answer is this. The industries with the most standardized, documentation-heavy cognitive work are already 2 or 3 steps into reorganization. It is not arriving. It is underway. And the mechanism is not dramatic. It is task compression, followed by headcount math, followed by a rising skill floor. If you are building a career in one of these industries, the question is not whether to worry. It is where to position yourself. One sentence. The people who will be fine are the ones who stop optimizing for the core layer and start developing judgment at the edge. Now here is the question I did not answer today, and it is the harder one. We talked about which industries are shifting. We did not talk about which specific skills compound in value as this happens. The ones that are genuinely hard to automate, not just hard to automate today. That question has a specific, somewhat counterintuitive answer. And it is what the next video is about.